Welcome to the video how to change the battery on a Kymco scooter. Okay, just down the side of the scooter you see there's a little lever there. You need to lift that lever and then lift the seat off. It's quite heavy. Okay, so there we go. Now this remaining cover doesn't have any screws in it. It just has some poppers on it, but it does have wires for the lights at the back. So if you grab both sides of the cover and pull, it should just pop away. And you can see there's some wires there still attached, so you just need to sit it at the back there. Now then, you have two batteries in the Kymco. Each battery is 12 volts and that adds up to 24 because it's a 24 volt system. So what we're going to do now is test the batteries and work out which one's failed. So firstly, to remove the batteries, essentially take the strap off and it just comes out. There's a little divot under there where it comes through, and the other straps come off the same way. Okay, the straps have a velcro tab which is down here, and you then loose it off and pull the strap. So pretty much as you can see, the battery is now loose. It remains is just to unscrew these with a 10mm spanner. Okay, now your terminals have been released, you can now lift out the battery. Okay, in order to determine which of your batteries has failed, you need to measure the voltage across the batteries, and that's done with a voltmeter. This is quite an old-fashioned voltmeter, but you can use any voltmeter, it doesn't have to be this one. So this particular battery measures 9 volts, which is a little bit low, and that is probably the broken one, I would think. So if we come out, see you've just got the two terminals there. Your black lead goes to the negative and your red lead goes to the positive. So let's measure the other battery. Okay, so get your leads right and then go to the measurement. And you can clearly see that that's 12 to 13 volts. 12.5 volts I would say. So I would say that battery's okay. Just now anyway. So here's our new battery. And if we look at that one, looking at about 13 volts. 12.9, something like that, which is similar to the other one. So okay, so here's a second test that you can do to check your battery. If you get a battery charger like this is an RAC charger, and then connect the charger to each battery and make a note of the charging current. Okay, so this battery's been discharged and it's charging it around an amp there, which I think is fairly normal when it's discharged. So battery number 1 is charging at 4 amps, sorry, which is a little bit high, and I reckon that's probably the faulty one because that was also 9 volts. Now battery 2 is charging about an amp and it has been discharged, so it's probably about okay. Now if we check out the new battery, we can see again that's fully charged and that's a bit less than an amp, so I think battery 2 is fine and battery 1 is the one that's dead. After you put the batteries back in, you then tighten these down with a 10mm spanner. Make sure you get red on red and black on black, and not the other way around. These straps here, they just tighten up and they go through the little loop here at the base. Tighten that up and roll it all over out, and essentially down the side there, so that the battery stays in secure. And then there's another strap that comes across and goes through this little divot there. Top now clips back on, These little clips go through the little rubber bungs here, and then put the seat back on. Once the seat is back on, you need to waggle a little lever there until the seat clicks down. Okay, don't forget to make a record of the voltage changes and the measurements of the amperage and the date that you made the measurements and the date that you changed the battery. Okay, I just want to run a few things with the Kymco battery here. So essentially, you got your battery here, which is rated at 12 volts, and that is connected to the Kymco scooter, right, and that's 12 volt rated motor. So what happens when you connect the battery is, if the battery produced 12 volts, you would get X volts over the internal resistance of the battery, and then the Kymco scooter would get the rest. So if that was a volt, then the Kymco scooter would only get 11 volts. So essentially, when a designer designs a battery, he designs it for a specific application, where he effectively knows what the load's going to look like. So what he does is he designs the internal resistance of the battery to drop a particular voltage, and in this case it looks like it's about 1 volt, because when you measure the Kymco battery, it comes up at somewhere around 12.9 volts when it's new. So let's call that 13 volts just for sake of argument. So when you connect this, you basically you measure your 13 volts on the fully charged battery. You get 1 here and 12 here, and that's why the new battery measured 13 volts, and so did battery number 2, if you remember. Okay, so the other battery, which was measuring 9 volts, what essentially is happening there is a battery is made up of individual cells, and I think each cell, if I remember correctly from college, each cell is around about 1.5 volts each, and you add them up, and the total number of cells gives you your 13 volts. Okay, so there are 2 scenarios essentially. If one of the cells is high resistance, sometimes called dis or disconnect, then what will happen is you may see the full voltage developed okay, or you may not, but you find it hard to draw any current out of the battery at all, and you'll find it hard to charge it too. Fortunately, that's a very rare occurrence. What usually happens with batteries is the opposite. You get a short, and what happens is some of these little elements that make up the battery get completely shorted through, and that means that that 3 volts there doesn't add on, and so you end up with only the addition of that cell, that cell, that cell, and all the others that make up the supposed 13 volts. But in actual fact, because you got 2 missing, you only end up with 9 volts. So what's likely to happen in this battery is that when you try to charge it, because you've got shorted cells, that means you've got a lower resistance. Essentially you will get a high charging current, which is what we've just seen in the video if you look closely. So this particular battery, this one here, has got a couple of shorted cells inside it, and when you are changing a Kymco battery, that's what you need to look for. You need to look for the battery voltage being below what it should be, especially when it's discharged, and you need to look for a high charging current. Typically a car lead acid battery should charge at less than an amp if it's in perfect healthy working order, and if you're starting to get close to an amp or more, or a car battery even, then your battery's a bit unhealthy, so you need to start thinking about getting another one. Anyway, so I hope that helps. There you go, and that is how you change the battery on a Kymco scooter. Thanks very much for watching.